Alright. To the Baja! What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Baja. We got episode 2 cooked up for you this evening. The NBA Finals just concluded. The Nuggets hoisted their first NBA championship at home at Ball Arena, beating out the Miami Nuggets in a low-scoring affair, 94-89. The Nuggets won it in 5, Myers, to the shock of me, not the shock of you, obviously. We talked about it in the last one. But anyways, I'm Ronan. Hey, Coop. He's Ryan Myers. We got Esai Romero coming in on the Zoom. Good to see you, bud. How has it been in the Mile High City? How have these Denver Nuggets been? What have you seen so far from this squad?
Well, first off, I'd like to shout out all the fake Nuggets fans that I've seen posting on social media. You know, y'all are just outlandish. Like, y'all don't even watch basketball and y'all posting the Nuggets. I just want to get that out the way. But this Nuggets team was just I throughout the playoffs, just pure dominance. You can just see how good Jokic really is in playoff games because you can see these teams scheme for him. You saw the Suns double him really early in like the first quarter and things like that. That didn't work. We saw the Heat go zone. I think zone worked a little bit better than anything anybody's thrown at him, just because it forces him to make more reads than he does in man. But again, he still does that to almost perfection. But I just see dominance from this Nuggets team across the board through the last person on the bench, bro. We see both Browns come off the bench, play outstanding minutes, play great defense, and I can see this Nuggets team winning for a long time.
Yeah, and we were talking about a little bit before. What did you see that the Heat were really throwing at the Nuggets versus what the Suns did? Because they kind of came out in a little bit of approach. Obviously, the Miami Miami Heat, a very well coached team. What'd you see?
Well, you can definitely see the differences through organizations like coaching styles and things like that and how organizations are run. The Heat really put up a good fight just because they did a great job of in that zone using their hands. Jokic does a horrible job when he can't see defenders. When he can't like see the floor, he doesn't do it the best job. And so that's why we see a lot of these Nugget sets pulling him out to the top of the key, letting him see cutters and seeing the whole defense. Because there's been multiple times throughout the playoffs where he had 4 turnovers because defenders coming by, stealing pick in his pocket, or he's just not seeing the defender. So the Heat did a good job of putting him in position to create those situations where they could get a positive effect. Throwing a lot of zone. They threw out a 1-3-1. I saw they threw out a 1-2-2, which is just a 3-2 with a high guard stepping up, picking up at half court. And then, I mean, they really did that because one, they're not big enough. They're not big enough. Bam has to stay in the paint at all times. They're running 4 guards in their starting lineup. Gabe Vincent, guard. Strus, guard. Jimmy, I'd argue he's a 2. Like, he's not a 3. Like, that dude is a 2.
I think if he didn't have a good defensive skill set, he would certainly be a 2. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think he kind of fits into that weird spot that Kawhi Leonard's also in. Like, Kawhi Leonard's certainly a 3, same as Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
But it's still that weird, like, positionless basketball that we talk so much about. Mm-hmm. It's kind of difficult to put on what positions people truly are playing. But I agree with what you're saying, E. And especially with Bam being a 6, what is he listed at?
6'8"?
6'8", 6'9"?
Yeah, max 6'9".
Yeah.
As generous. The way they played that small ball lineup was interesting. And I love how they were fronting Jokic in those first couple of games, just denying him the basketball. Obviously, it didn't work because the sets that they run, and we talked about it, you weren't here, E. But I really think what Mike Malone and the Nuggets organization have done is find a perfect system for Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic, obviously, not the most athletic, not the most talented, but a very smart basketball player, especially in his position, both in transition and in the half court. And they've done an excellent job utilizing him and having those sparks like Jamal Murray or a Bruce Brown who's come off the bench and been fantastic. I hate to see him not in a Nets uniform, but regardless, Like Myers, what was your take? Because you were very
Yeah.
very bull on the Nuggets in this series coming in.
Well, I think because like we're talking about how the Heat threw so many different looks at him with the zones and fronting Jokic and all this stuff. And what's interesting with me, for me personally, is that you look at any other big in the league, and the different looks they threw at Jokic would kill guys, like even guys like AD and Joel Embiid. We saw how the Celtics were able to turn him over so much in that series, and that was real killer. And I think for Jokic, the difference is that when you front him, if you play that little lob pass over the top and you find him, and then another man comes to play help, Jokic is still gonna find a way to make that pass off to the dump man cutting or kick out for a three or hit you with the pump fake, spin move and go up with the lay. The composure he has to deal with pressure, I don't know if I've ever seen it from a player above 6'10".
He reminds me a lot of Kawhi in the sense that he has no emotion both on and off the court.
Not at
You
all.
don't really know who Nikola Jokic is. He seems honestly like a robot, and I think that benefits them in these high pressure situations like you were talking about. And Esai, you obviously weren't here. I keep bringing that up, but I made an argument that Nikola Jokic is not necessarily a good facilitator, but a great passer in a system built for him. I want to know you're obviously more of a basketball analyst than I am. I want to see your thoughts on that take. Is Nikola Jokic finds the open man every time. However, that play was drawn up by the coach, not by him.
Okay, I can. I would say about 5 out of his 10 assists are that way, but I see him make passes that are like LeBron level passes. So Eric Spoelstra, or not Eric Spoelstra, Steve Kerr a while back, during one of the finals where the Cavs were in, he's talking about LeBron making adjustments to the adjustments of the adjustments. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So Jokic is that type of player where I remember in game two, now even though they lost that game, I remember Jokic got the catch on the high post, um, beat Bam going right. Help came, they doubled. And then Eric Spoelstra did this on purpose, told them to run to the corner because usually he makes that long skip pass across the court to that
Mm-hmm.
corner pass, right? So they run corner, and then Jokic throws a dime to the wing.
Yeah.
So, like, I think half of his assists are yes, the system that he's on with the down screens, they're putting him top of the key, down screen Michael Porter Jr. That's an easy pass. But those passes where he's reading the defense in real time and making a ridiculous pass across court or down into the post to Aaron Gordon or things of that nature, I would say you're both half right. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those you see the different reads that are being drawn up for him to find, but a lot of these you can't make some of these passes up. The way he can just maneuver his own body to open up passing lanes for his teammates, and he's so big and strong that his little bump of a shoulder will give him enough space to make a pass. Like the talent that he has to create opportunities for his teammates is otherworldly for anybody that's not a point guard. And yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you that yeah, a lot of these assists definitely come from system. A lot of the back cuts, especially you got guys like Gordon and KCP in there for a reason to make those kind of cuts. But then you also see times where the play kind of gets botched and you have to just make something happen. And he just makes whatever he needs to happen, and it's something special.
And speaking of who fits really into that role for that Nuggets team, Jamal Murray. I'll throw some stats at you right now, boys. Jamal Murray overall in the regular season, 20 points per game. In the postseason, 26.7 on 47, 40, and 92 splits. Jamal Murray, I think, has a lot to do with this NBA Finals run in this championship. Jamal Murray's been that X factor on that team. Um, how is this team gonna move going forward? Like, how are we gonna see this team like going into next year and the year after? Obviously, they're gonna have to retain guys like Jokic and Murray. Those will be easy on those large super max and max deals that they're giving out in the NBA now. I feel like everybody's getting an $80 million contract
Yeah.
in today's age. But it's those rotation players that I think were so key. How do we think that I almost said Miami Nuggets again. Denver Nuggets. How are they going to keep up in the next year?
Well, it's like you said, Ronan. They got to keep the other guys. They got to keep Bruce Brown. They have to keep KCP. They got to keep Aaron Gordon. And then past that, I think if you're going to look for an addition, we talk about Jokic and his defensive capabilities. If you can go out and get a decent bench rim protector that's like an athletic big, a lob threat. They tried with DeAndre Jordan. He's past that age where he's going to be able to do that at a consistent level. You maybe get a guy that can do that. And then besides that, there's not really much you're looking for. Obviously, you want to keep the guys you have. You can always get better personnel, I guess. But the team chemistry is on such a different level right now that you wouldn't want to break up guys if you don't have to. So I'd say as long as they can retain their players, this team's going to be scary for a long time because I don't see many other teams in the West that are really going to be able to challenge this team at all.
Yeah, so I'll just throw off. So the Nuggets at the end of this season, Jeff Green, Reggie Jackson, Thomas Bryant, Bruce Brown, DeAndre Jordan, Jack White, and Colin Gillespie. Bruce Brown has a player option. Then 2024, KCP has a player option. So this team
is together.
Is very much together. I mean, I have a feeling a team might try to throw a bag at a guy like Michael Porter Jr. or something like that. But obviously, the grass is probably not greener anywhere besides Denver for a guy like that.
No, especially for a guy that isn't elite in the off the dribble yet as a scorer. I think his best offensive bag is catch and shoots, and then at least when he can come off pin downs or when he's cutting to the basket. He moved great off the ball, and he's great shooting off the catch. But he's not the guy you want to put the ball on the deck and say, get me 20 every single night. And he can do that. But if he goes to a trash organization, like you sent him to Charlotte and tell him, go get me 25 a game, he might do it.
You wanted to say Brooklyn so bad. I can
No.
see it in his eyes. I can see it in his eyes. You saw that? He looked at me for a second and went, Charlotte.
I did, because Brooklyn's not that bad. But you throw him on that team, and he might get you 25 on 33% from three, and you're like, why did we sign this kid? So I don't think the grass is greener for the guy. And I think he's already getting a pretty sizable bag currently from the Nuggets, but definitely keeping this team together is going to be the key for them. But I don't know what you have to say about the Nuggets or anything like that.
I mean, I totally agree. Michael Porter Jr. is not going to be liked anywhere else he goes. Like, Mr. End the Possession, Michael Porter End the Possession Jr. Like, that dude, like, I'm sorry. If I'm playing with that dude, and he like 20 seconds left on the shot clock, he's pulling from deep in transition, and none of the Nuggets are phased. Like, we seen, like, Jordan Poole put up a shot like that, and, like, Steph throws his mouthpiece and gets ejected. You know what I'm saying? But, like, everybody on the Nuggets are like, right. Everybody on the Nuggets is like, man, might as well. Like, it went in. Like, I don't know what else to. And they don't trip when he misses either. So I think Michael Porter Jr. stays for sure. My biggest thing is genuinely, I don't even think they need to add rim protector Myers. Like, this team is almost perfect. Like, genuinely across.
It's not a need.
I think that's the only like true hole, but I think guys like Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon fill that pretty well. A lot of people overlook Michael Porter Jr. He has that speed for his height. I mean, what is he listed at?
6'10".
6'10".
He's a tall dude.
He's a big dude, and his ability to move off ball and get in those catch and shoot opportunities, and also be able to get out and transition on both ends of the floor, I think is one of his more important skill sets. And I think my final take on this topic would be like the Denver Nuggets are going to be very scary next year. Who knows what's going on in the Suns organization? I think that's the only team that really has the talent level to contest this Nuggets team moving forward. I mean, the Clippers have kind of shown, I hate to say it, Myers, that they're going to be in that conversation. However, they're not going to be able to get over the hump, and I think the Los Angeles Lakers kind of fit in that same category. And other than that, the Grizzlies, I think, are going to fizzle out in the next year or so.
They're going to have a really tough offseason, the Grizzlies, because nobody's going to want to go to that team that's serious about winning right now. I agree with you wholeheartedly about the LA teams. I think the Lakers have the potential to definitely go out and sign a guy or two They got a lot of moving
Oh,
around of
100%.
pieces.
100%.
The Clippers, I don't know what that I don't know what as an organization they're gonna try to look to do
Health,
as a team.
health.
Yeah, I mean health, but again, that's one of those things where it's like we've been saying health for 4 years. We were freshmen in high school talking about health. I'm sick of health. I want it now. I want to see something, and I haven't had faith in this team actually doing anything in the postseason for a minute, and it's only because of health, which really stinks for them. But I think you're right. This Nuggets team is going to be really good for a long time. It's going to be too scary.
Before we get too sidetracked talking about the rest of the NBA, let's wrap up this finals talk. So, are we all in agreement here that the Heat are the undisputed best 8 seed of all time, or does anybody have another take?
99 Knicks had a great run, but no, it's the Miami Heat. Beating off a 1 seed faster than any 1 seed has ever lost in NBA history is crazy. And then going on and beating a quality New York Knicks team as a 5 seed and one of the hardest arenas to play in. And then going to Boston and
And by all accounts, until pretty much late March, the best team in the NBA in the Boston
literally
Celtics.
the healthy Boston. There's no excuse you can throw for that Celtics team. Healthy Celtics team just lost. I got to give it to them.
I would only give a little bit of a pushback of I don't think the Miami Heat necessarily won that series. I think the Boston Celtics lost it.
That's very true.
And
I agree.
So you're in agreement with us here?
Yeah, I totally agree. My thing with the Heat is my take on them is the Heat are built perfectly to run through the Eastern Conference, and we saw it last year and we saw it this year. Like they are built across the board, right? Forcing the defense to get out on their shooters. They got a guy in Jimmy Butler that can score one-on-one. Bam Adebayo is a great big that can defend all 5 positions and protect the rim, which is what you need in the Eastern Conference. Like he did great against Giannis. They did great defensively against Giannis. The Knicks are the Knicks. Like, bro,
It's a good team though.
Like they're just gonna good is pushing it. Good is pushing it.
We even sat in my dorm room. And as soon as the Heat beat out the Bucks, I was like, "Yep, Knicks are clipped. The Knicks have no shot in that series." But I was gonna bring up one point, but I completely forgot. Oh yeah, DeAndre Ayton's still better than Bam Adebayo, right, Mister Ryan Myers, right?
See, no, because
Well,
look at him backtrack. Look at him backtrack.
No, I'm not backtracking. I'm just making it known that as we were off camera, and I was the one that brought up me looking stupid for this point. I'll eat my words. I remember being sat at a Chipotle across the country and saying that I thought DeAndre Ayton and Bam Adebayo were on the same pedestal of player, and I'm going to swallow my words because there's nothing I can really say. Bam's impact on winning has been second to none this postseason. I gotta give the man his props. So I'll take the L on that one.
We all have bad takes, Myers. It's okay.
It happens.
I remember.
And you know what? And I still was the closest one to guess how this series is gonna end. So I'm not. You take the losses with the wins. You know, you gotta ride the punches out.
And also too here, we kind of got an interesting storyline here at the end of this finals. Jimmy Butler loses in his second finals. What does this do for Jimmy Butler's legacy? Because there's plenty of guys in this generation, the generation of James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Russell Westbrook, that obviously have better regular season awards. Obviously, a pair of MVPs between those two guys I just mentioned, scoring titles, All-Stars, etc. But how do we like this Eastern Conference MVP, these 2 NBA Finals, hard-fought NBA Finals from Jimmy Butler, stacking him up in the upper echelons of his generation of players?
It's awkward because he doesn't have the numbers, and he has some accolades, but not enough to stamp his legacy. I worry he's gonna fall into this category of like, oh man, like y'all never heard of Jimmy Butler. We're gonna be like 35, 40, telling like kids, you never heard of Jimmy Butler, man? Like he was giving dudes buckets back in the day, and then you got to pull up clips of him playing basketball like he's like Alex English or Clyde Drexler or something. Yeah,
I was literally that's the first thing that came to my mind. The dude who just couldn't get it done.
Like not, and it's not even like I couldn't get it done, but just like he's stepped up in bright moments, but he's not as good as I think these playoff runs are going to give him credit for. So he's gonna end up being like a guy you look back on with a fond memory of joy in the game of basketball, but nothing you're like, oh, he's a top this player all time, top that player.
I know for a fact I'm gonna be showing my kids that picture of him in the bubble like this
Oh, over the stanchion, just
on the
let it
stand,
die,
yeah, passing out.
Yeah, I think for me, Jimmy's legacy is gonna come down to whether he wins a championship or not. Because if he doesn't win a championship, like to be honest, there's no way that people remember him. You know what I'm saying? Like
I won't say no way.
he hasn't impacted because he hasn't impacted the regular season at all. Like, okay, he had playoff runs, but like people are gonna remember the Nuggets winning the championship. You know what I'm saying? Not that Jimmy Butler I don't think they're gonna remember Jimmy Butler beating the Bucks in the first round. Like, I don't even know who the '99 Knicks played in the first round against the 1 seed.
I agree. I think it'll come down to who actually follows the sport of basketball versus the casual fan. And greatness is not determined by true basketball fans. It's determined by the casual who watches one game every month or watches the playoffs. That's what's defined, that's who defines rather a player's greatness. How many times you see him in the paper? How many times you see him on SportsCenter? How many times he shows up in your Twitter or Instagram feed? More modernly, but I have to agree with you. As much as I hate it, as much as I love Jimmy Butler, I think unless he wins a championship, he won't really come away with any real credibility all time. However, how do we think about the possibility of him winning an NBA championship? I don't think unless he goes to like a Brooklyn Nets or moves up and takes like a James Harden type scenario. I'm telling you right now, hey, clip me right at the camera.
Oh no.
Clip me right at the camera. The Brooklyn Nets are your 2025 or 6 NBA champions. Clip it right here. Lock it in. Lock it in. Hold on. Put me on the main cam.
No.
Lock it in right now. Lock it in.
No. That's awful. Because the thing is like Jimmy Butler's tried with other teams, and I think the Heat culture is where he fits best. So I don't see him leaving. I think the move for Dame isn't gonna work unless they trade Hero and like Duncan, because there's just not gonna be enough money to go around.
You mean future Brooklyn Net? Damian
No,
Lillard?
bro.
The Brooklyn Nets are getting everyone. I'm a Laker fan now. We have everyone. Our starting 5 is going to be Damian Lillard, Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler, James Harden. I don't even care. We're going small ball. I don't even care. What's a center?
You'll keep Claxton at the 5, I think. No, the Nets aren't getting anybody. The Nets might. Bro, I don't even know. No.
Do we want to make bets on who has more wins next year? The Thunder, Clips, or Nets?
I'm taking the Clippers. I'm taking my team.
I'm taking Clips 1, Thunder 2, Nets 3.
Yo, that's
Yo, Chet gonna come up and drop 40 for us?
No.
Because my thing is the one thing that separates the Thunder and the Nets is the Nets are going to trade for someone because that's how their franchise is set up and that's how that front office works. You guys are gonna wait a few years and see if your guys pan out.
Which I think they will.
So a lot of dudes on this Thunder team are not going to take steps that I hope they take. I don't think. Like I don't think their bench guys get it. I don't think their bench guys get better. Like do you really see like Trey Mann or Pokashevsky getting better? Not really. But we can go back to
who?
It's like an amoeba. But we can go back to Jimmy because I like Esai. Your point about him getting guys on the roster, like recruiting people to Miami, to that Heat culture, is the most important thing because I think he got to stay in Miami. If he wins with Miami,
for sure,
his legacy will be stamped in an insane way. But I don't know if he's going to do that without major help. Dame is always a name that's been thrown around the hat. I think that would be huge. If Kyrie was a little bit more consistent off the court, I'd say he'd be the guy you go for. Even still, I think if you can get him, you get him because he's Kyrie Irving, and why not?
That would be nasty.
It would be insane, and I think if you can get Kyrie Irving, you get him. I don't know who else they would go for. They want like a guard, I would assume, or maybe even another wing if they can.
To be fair, me personally, Keep Jimmy, keep Bam. Trade all those role players that have been playing good this whole
Why?
playoffs. Bro, because like again, like you just made the point of the Thunder's bench players getting better. Do you see Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, any of those guys getting better?
I think you can keep some of them. I think trading isn't a bad idea. But no. But it's not even about getting better. But if they can produce the same, like maybe you get rid of Max Strus. He's gonna get a lot of hate, and he was a no name before like 2 months ago. So I feel bad for the guy because he's gonna go.
He played good last year.
Yeah, but okay. Now he's a guy where he gets talked to. Like Stephen, I watched first day today. Stephen A. Smith was ripping him for having 2 donuts in the finals. If he got a donut in the regular season 3 months ago, who cares? It's not news.
Yeah,
just,
you're right.
Just to add a little bit to this conversation, the Miami Heat free agency in 2023, Max Strus, Victor Oladipo, Gabe Vincent, Kevin Love, Udonis Haslem, Omar Yurk 7, and a couple of no names, and then next year Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin has a player option.
Yeah, they're gonna have to reload for sure, but I think if they can go for a star, hopefully Dame, that'd be fun. Get him in Miami, see if he can have a chance at something. Who else would they go for besides Dame or Kyrie though? Like, are there any other names out there that I'm looking at? Fred VanVleet just declined a player option today. For 23 mil.
I don't hate that.
He could definitely go down there, but it'd be a lot cheaper than getting Kyrie.
And Austin Reeves.
Yeah, true. And we're talking about guys that are playoff proven too.
And I think with my thing as well is to help out Bam a lot is because a lot I see in this final series as we get back to it, Gabe Vincent is getting beat even by guards, not even just on matchups. He's getting posted by Aaron Gordon. He can't do nothing about that. But also a guy like Austin Reeves, who's a solid on-ball defender, that makes Bam's job so much easier. It's kind of like the Jokic thing where if you have good on-ball defenders, it makes the center's job so much easier because he has to help less. So getting guys like that, I totally agree. Austin Reeves, Ronan, that's a pull. That's your best suggestion I've ever heard in a basketball, building a team, take. Austin Reeves is a good fit. I like Dame. Just some of the guys that they could trade for are a little unrealistic. The Celtics aren't going to trade him to the Heat. They aren't going to trade Jaylen Brown to the Heat. They'll go to Western Hill. If the Heat are going to trade him, they're going to go to somebody.
I hate to say it now after his final appearance, but I was joking before, but I think JB to the Brooklyn Nets has been rumored for the better part of this year, and I think it's very likely because I don't feel the Celtics think that the Brooklyn Nets are generally a threat, and then after what we've seen from Jaylen Brown in the Eastern Conference Finals, do we really think that is going to be that much of a splash for the Brooklyn Nets? I really don't think so.
It'll make them a consistent, a definite playoff team.
Depends also who they give up.
Yeah, true, because they're going to have to trade for him. Yeah, I don't know if that's even worth at that point because you're going to have to get rid of all the guys you just acquired from the Suns. It'll be tricky.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I think the Celtics really need is more wing role players. I don't know if you I think Cam Johnson has a lot of value and guys like Dinwiddie and Finney Smith, whatever. But I don't think the Celtics, a team that we talk about with the most deep roster in the league, looks at that kind of move being we need more above average role players on this roster that take up more minutes and more money for everybody. But I don't know. I think for at least I'll keep for the Nets for a second because I think with JB, he doesn't seem like he doesn't feel valued, which I think is most important for him is feeling like he can be that guy. And after this playoffs, after this playoffs that he's had, he doesn't deserve to be valued as that guy. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to all of this because he's not going to get paid. He already had issues with the team. It'll be fun with them. But I guess we'll stay on Jimmy for 1 second too. He needs. I think Fred VanVleet's going to be the guy that they go for. He'll be a player that I think the whole league's going to try to go after if he's actually looking to sign for a new team. But I think the Heat are a team that can acquire a lot of free agents because people are going to want to play with winners. So
speaking of legacies, this final adds yet another layer to the Nikola Jokic story. He's been in that conversation of elite big men all time with those 2 MVPs, almost 3 this year. But now he's got that ring, gentlemen. So how are we feeling about Nikola Jokic on that all-time big man list? Do we see him in that top 10?
I think he's still knocking at the door because I think you just look at so many great big men from the years and years of NBA history that there have been. Saying he's top 10 is kind of a stretch for me personally. But he's at the door. I think if you said he's 12, I'm 11. He's perfectly fine with that. I think if we just said centers, he's for sure top 10, like maybe around that 7 spot. Mm-hmm. But with the power forwards included, as a holistic big man category, I'm going to put him at about 11, 12 right now. I'm not going to say definitively that he is top 10.
Yeah, see, I think especially the way that even nowadays there's this positionless basketball that goes around, I think it's really tough to separate a center from a power forward. I think if Giannis Antetokounmpo plays 5 years ago, 6 years ago, in his prime, he's a center. I don't think the skill set between an Anthony Davis and a Giannis Antetokounmpo is so different. So for me, I think it's kind of hard to put that in the 10 category for big men, but centers I think guaranteed. But I think it's kind of difficult to differentiate who's a center, who's a power forward, what skill sets, just dependent upon what teams they're on, what slot they filled in it, whether it be the 4 or the 5. And I, as much as I grit my teeth to say it, Nikola Jokic, like you said, is knocking on that door. 2 MVPs, a ring, and he's got years left. I want to say the Nuggets have 3 to 4 years of being a high-level basketball team before they really start to fall. I mean, who knows about a guy like Jamal Murray's health moving forward, but I still think that this Nuggets team is going to be around for a little bit.
They are, and you speak about health, and one thing about Jokic's game that we've seen from the best centers of all time, guys like Kareem or Bill Russell, is a longevity thing. And his game, he's not athletic. He's gonna get less athletic as the years go on. But him being less athletic 5 years from now isn't going to kill his game like some of these all-time big men like a Shaq was. When Shaq couldn't jump anymore, he couldn't run, his game dropped significantly. And that makes sense. That was his game.
Even not necessarily big man, a guy like Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Once he couldn't stop, once he wasn't jumping out the gym anymore or flying up and down the floor, his game suffered because they relied on it so heavy, and I think you're 100% correct. Jokic doesn't rely on athleticism because, frankly, he doesn't necessarily have it.
Yeah.
Bro can't jump over a $1 bill.
Clip it.
Bro hey, I'm telling you, like, I totally agree with y'all. His game's gonna, it might be 10 years before we see Jokic like really start to regress and like just not be able to physically like run up and down the floor. But to speak on that all time, me personally, I get a lot of controversy from our friends and everybody else. My lists are made of like 60-70% of what you can do for me on the basketball floor, and then the rest is resume. And Jokic does a lot more for me on the basketball floor than a lot of these bigs have done. So, like, I don't necessarily think it's crazy that I'd take him over Dirk. Is that crazy? Am I outlandish? I don't think so. I probably might even take him over
I hate to say it. It's not outlandish. My thing is, he got to keep on the same trajectory. Like,
I agree.
I don't like when people talk about players on the come up like it's a surefire thing that they're going to continue on this trajectory. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, Finals MVP his rookie year, you could be like, oh my God, he's going to be the best player of all time. And then obviously he's got no knees in his 11th year in the league after winning, what, 2 rings?
2 rings, 2 Finals MVPs. But yeah, no, you're totally right. I think with Jokic, it's going to be one of those. Dirk did it for 2 decades. Jokic has had elite 4 years. 3 really elite
If we're being
years.
honest, that first year he won MVP was his first elite year. I think he had 1 All-Star prior to that. Don't quote me on that, but I think he only has 4 All-Stars.
Yeah, I mean, he had got to a point where he was getting to that upper echelon of centers, but even then, we were saying the top 3 big men in the league, and you were not going to take a whiff at Jokic until a few years ago. So he needs to do this for at least another 5 years before I'm, like, really getting nitty-gritty with the comparisons. I think right now it's like he's on path to be this good, but we're just speculating. I think if we're gonna just throw out predictions at this point, I could say all time he could pass Shaq, but again, that's a lot of winning. That's a lot of winning,
Yeah.
and he has time to do it, but he has to do it. So I think saying he's better than Dirk is tough because Dirk did it for 2 decades, even though he
Also,
only
I
got one
think
ring.
yeah, I agree. I also think the problem we're gonna run into is depending on how good Michael Porter Jr. get and Jamal Murray get and those guys around him get as like their two stars. Um, I wonder how like people are gonna say, "Oh, his team was just yeah, he was the best player on his team, but also his team was really really good, and that's why they won." You
His
know what
team
I'm
doesn't have
saying?
that many good
So
all time players though.
I'm just saying like Ronan said earlier in the show, the casuals dictate that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, we see a higher level of yeah, Jokic does this, makes these reads, does this and this, but your average casual is going to be like, well, Michael Porter Jr.'s hitting all these threes, Jamal Murray's is the one closing the game. So like those type of things is like, are we going to start hearing from Jokic? Which kind of gets rough is like just with the whole legacy thing because that's casuals dictate legacy 100%. We see it from Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
Like
I think what happens with this is that you see what happens with, like, you mentioned Kawhi and the Spurs, Ronan. I think that's a great example for this, what I'm about to say, because Kawhi, when he won that chip and Finals MVP with the Spurs, is nowhere near the player that Kawhi Leonard is today. But people look back on that team as though Kawhi Leonard was this, like, 25 points a game. He was a stopper defensively, but he was a mediocre offensive player, and people are gonna look back being like, "Oh my God, this big four they had." Kawhi was not a big. There was no big four when he was on the Spurs when they saw Tim Duncan, Ginobili, and Tony Parker. And I think the only way that happens, where we look at the supporting cast and the Nuggets and gassing them up, is if Michael Porter Jr. becomes some like consistent All Star level player. Jamal Murray makes some All NBA teams. You're like, look at the big three they had. Michael Porter Jr. was god awful this series. If we're gonna look at like all time list and being like, look at the help he had. Michael Porter Jr. was not good in this final series. He had a good playoffs. He wasn't good in this final series. And I think guys like KCP, Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon are kind of forgetful in an all-time scenario. So I don't really see that happening for him personally, with him like being, oh my God, his team was so good. Not really.
I
Yeah.
agree. What you think, Ronan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that take at all. For me, it's just gonna come down to you gotta show me.
Mm.
And I think I wish Nikola Jokic all the best in his career, obviously, but I'm skeptical because he is in a fantastic system, and how long is that system going to be there? Because he had trouble winning when he was playing at the same level just 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think health comes into it too. I think he's gotten better as a player. Supporting cast has
He's
gotten a
gotten
little bit
way
better. Um, but definitely Jamal Murray being out for the last like couple years really has hurt them on that aspect.
And that's my thing is if we know one thing in the NBA nowadays is health is a skill.
Yeah.
It is something to be acquired, and Jamal Murray didn't have it. He got unlucky. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Excuse me. Unfortunately for him, but it comes down to it for me with Nikola Jokic is can he win moving forward? I think it sound I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think that's basically the take.
Yeah, and I mean, right now we're recording this literally as the finals have wrapped up and this team looks unstoppable. So right now it looks like there's no chance they don't continue this, but at the same time, you can
Yeah.
definitely see it happening as well.
One broken hand, one broken finger, a torn ligament in somebody's leg, and it ruins their season. You know what I'm saying? Like without Jamal Murray, I don't think that team's beating the Suns for sure. I don't think they're beating the Lakers either. So
Yeah.
I agree. It's going to come down to health, and I think that's all that matters really. Like you said, Ronan, in the NBA now is just how healthy can your guys stay.
But okay, so I guess we'll throw this out there though. If we had to predict, like I said, wait, where do we think Jokic will finish all time among centers? Like give me like the center that's listed above him, or not center, the big man listed above him and the big man listed under him. Because for me personally, I'm thinking he is one player below Shaq, and I think, or above Shaq.
He's lower than Shaq by a
He's
couple
lower.
guys.
No. But
Well,
I think when it's all said and done, y'all
Mm.
can call me crazy. I think he slots into like that 4 to 6 best center or 4 best big man all time. I think he could do it.
I think he can notch into the 3 spot.
So we're going Kareem, Bill Russell, Shaq.
Again, based on me, Will and Bill Russell are right now. Maybe Will. Bill Russell's not in this conversation. I apologize.
Yo, come on. Now.
11.
11, bro. A decade of rings. He got more than half your life in championships.
There was 4 teams. There was 4 teams in the league, and they were all plumbers and worked at a movie theater. I'm not taking Bill Russell.
Alrighty, Esai Romero coming in with a clip to end us off here. But any final thoughts on this, boys? Or are we ready to wrap this up?
Nah. Congrats to the Nuggets. They deserve it.
But alrighty, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Baja. This is our 2nd episode. We're so excited to get some more content out for you guys. We will be keeping these episodes churning out as the summer goes on and then into the school year. From the DMV stew is Ronan Haycoop, Ryan Myers, and then Esai Romero, all the way from the Mile High City. We will see you guys all in the next one. Have a good one.
Peace.
All right. To the Baja.
Eight, 9, 10. Yo, on the pod.
You gonna start rapping or what? You say yo.
I didn't know if I was allowed to. I thought you.